As we enter into the Donald Trump health scandal phase of his administration, we're also entering the eating their young phase as Donald Trump fires one after another of Senate-confirmed federal officers, including the head of the CDC, the number 2 at Treasury, the number 1 at the Internal Revenue Service, the number 1 at FEMA, and the list goes on, including now the attempt to fire a member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. It's not less chaotic than his first administration, which he promised. It's more chaotic. And now, in addition to that, you've got the remaining people cannibalizing others in the administration or around the administration to curry favor with Donald Trump. So you have Pam Bondi holding on to her job by her fingernails only by going after Donald Trump's political enemies and using her powers as the attorney general to do so. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. She was about to be fired as the director of national intelligence until she decided, let me open up an investigation against Barack Obama. And Joe Biden, oh, that's the tune that Donald Trump loves, so she saved her job. So you're either fired, kicked upstairs to other jobs like the ambassador of Iceland, that's what happened to the IRS director, or to the UN ambassador position like Mike Waltz, the national security director. Or in order to keep your job, you've got to go after fellow Republicans and take them out. We cover it all on the Saturday edition of Legal AF, the podcast. Here's a clip with Ben Meiselas and me. I just did a hot take that'll be up on Legal AF Substack that reminds people of what we're watching, which is the eating of the young season for Donald Trump. The cannibalization of the Trump officials that have been fired, replaced, removed, investigated, and the rest is it's just jaw-dropping. He said coming in that he would have a much more stable administration led by Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. She's kept her job so far. I don't know why, because we've been watching in the last 9 or 10 months is a completely erratic reflection of Donald Trump's own inconsistencies, his own erratic mind, in the way he's handling major cabinet positions and federal officers. The head of the CDC lasted 3 weeks. She was Senate confirmed. The head of the Internal Revenue Service, Billy Long, Senate confirmed, lasted 2 months. The number 2 in the Treasury Department just got canned after 6 months. He went after the Board of Governors. He went after the acting director of FEMA because he had the audacity to suggest that FEMA should not be eliminated as a federal agency, which is what Pam Bondi has been busy doing. And the ones that have survived, Mike Waltz, National Security Director, who decided to put a journalist on his Signal chat about bombing the Houthis. He got kicked upstairs to be the ambassador to the UN. Billy Long got kicked upstairs. He got sent from the IRS to Iceland. He got banished to Iceland as a result of whatever he did in the 2 months, picking a fight with Scott Bessent. And the ones that are surviving, talk about Hunger Games, like Bondi and Tulsi Gabbard, they're only surviving because they are being forced to eat human flesh. They are cannibalizing and going after the enemies of Donald Trump, both internally that have been finger pointed by like Laura Loomer, or they're going after the external enemies of Donald Trump. In the case of Tulsi Gabbard, who was on thin ice for what she did, it's things that she did by going after Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and the rest, and Pam Bondi the same. And then you got somebody finally like Dan Bongino, who didn't get fired, but he has a babysitter. There's a new deputy director coming in for the FBI to punish Bongino. This is not at the end of a term where I'm giving the rundown. This is 10 months in, Ben, to this administration. And all of those people now gone means that there are no people handling the levers of power, which may be a good thing for Donald Trump. He's hollowed out the Secretary of State, the State Department. He's hollowed out the Department of Education. He's hollowed out FEMA. He's hollowed out the Department of Justice. I mean, these people don't exist, and they're not being replaced. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers had to hit the pavement as a result of Donald Trump, making us less secure as a nation because there's less adults in the room handling important matters to the American people.
And literally finding the worst people for each position, right? I mean, starting at the top with Donald Trump, you could literally replace Donald Trump with my two dogs, Taquito and Chaquito, and let former President Biden's economy just go into, autopilot, and we'd all be thriving, I think, at this point. So you literally have someone who's doing all the wrong things that you could possibly do. So a destroyer in the Oval Office. Then you go to each position. You're like, who would be the worst human being to be Department of Homeland Security? The worst temperament, the worst Kristi Noem, like in the world, like one of one, uniquely bad. Defense Secretary, who would be the worst human that you'd want to lead that? Someone with no experience, a Fox weekend host who couldn't even make the weekday show, someone with a background of, someone with a background of very serious personal problems and issues, who could be easily subjected to compromise and other. Oh, you got to have Pete Hegseth become that. Oh, let's, when you talk about health, who would be the worst human being for health? I mean, maybe someone whose face looks like a 100-year-old baseball glove, telling you about health and saying, I'm not going to do his impression. I won't do it. But saying that he identifies mitochondrial defects in children when he looks at them in airports. They're just afraid you're going to give them freaking measles. Like, who would be the worst person for small businesses? Like Kelly Loeffler, a billionaire who hates small business, who's trying to literally who would be the worst?
Intelligence, a Russian asset in Tulsi Gabbard.
Tulsi Gabbard, who would be the worst there? Who would? And by the way, Tulsi, talking about firing, this story hasn't gotten enough attention. She fired the kind of main day-to-day U.S. intelligence official on Russia, who was preparing with the right data about how you're supposed to deal with Putin that Trump ignored. So then after, I guess, Trump was pissed that this person who was the main Russia analyst was critical of Putin, she was going to be sent to Europe. She was an undercover person, though, by the way. She was going to be sent to work at like a United States CIA affiliated company in Europe. And she got her security clearance pulled. Not only that, Tulsi Gabbard posted on social media a list of 37 people whose security clearance was going to get pulled.
And her name was there?
This lady's name was on it. They revealed the asset who was a spy against Russia, whose now life has been destroyed because she gave Trump the right advice on how you deal with Vladimir Putin.
And they fired the guy that did the team that did the analysis about the Iranian bombing at the exact same time. And this is covered on Midas and Legal AF. And look who they're appointing to be the head of the CDC. They got rid of the virologist, immunologist, PhD doctor, scientist who should be heading the Center for Disease Control. And she's now been replaced by a Peter Thiel private equity investor who has no science background, no PhD. He's now going to be running with RFK Jr., also vax denier, science denier, medicine denier, lawyer. At best, RFK Jr. is a minor environmental lawyer. This is who's now going to head the CDC. The guy that JD Vance's patron, his rabbi, Peter Thiel, whose biggest claim to fame people might know is that he backed Hulk Hogan against Gawker when Hulk Hogan's naked photos were published. This is the guy now heading the CDC.
And then this guy Eric Kurilla, general, they called him Kurilla the Gorilla. And he was the one who was responsible for coming up with the initial battle plans against Iran. He resigned, he left, and no one expected him to resign because he was given all of this authority. There have been tons of cuts at the highest level in our military right now. Hegseth has basically purged the military of all of our top generals. But, that's, if you study history, this is actually what happens in authoritarian regimes, right? As Trump posts his photo now, not just on the Department of Labor building, but on all buildings now have Donald Trump's face. If you go to Washington, D.C., it just straight up looks like North Korea now. His face everywhere on every building, basically, in D.C. And they're doing more faces on more buildings each and every day. So you do that because he alone can fix it. The people who he hires are only the people who tell him, you alone can fix it, who are often the stupidest people. And everybody else who has some modicum of competence is purged. You talked about the IRS. They got rid of 7 IRS commissioners already. 7 in 7 months. 7. Why? Because Donald Trump wants to use the IRS to go after his political opponents, the way Bill Pulte is using the Fair Housing Administration to claim that everyone who's a Trump political opponent commits mortgage fraud. And he couldn't get it from the last guy to go through people's individual tax returns. And so he's going on to the next person who finally agrees to do it.
Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. You're on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button there. In addition, you can help us with the podcast. Podcast is in the top 20, sometimes top 15 in the world in all podcasts. Number 1 law and politics podcast out there. It's all because of you. It's all because of the fervent support of our audience. No, our community around Legal AF. Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network. You can pick up the Legal AF podcast. Free or commercial-free versions up on the Legal AF Substack, which I encourage you to check out and subscribe to as well. It's all for free. We got no paywall, got no outside investors. We have no corporate parents. This is it. Audio downloads of the show also help us in the rankings. We're regularly in the top 50 of all U.S. news and politics podcasts in America, again, because of you. If you watch us on YouTube, listen to us in the audio, and vice versa. If you don't know about Legal AF, this is my personal invitation from Michael Popak to you to join our growing audience. This is the way we grow, only organically, only by word of mouth. So until my next report, this is Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.